As abortion becomes a central issue, as it usually is, but even more so this year in the presidential campaign because of the Supreme Court seat and the glorious ACB, Amy Coney Barrett, and Roe versus Wade, there's a movie that just came out that is the most pro-abortion propaganda movie I think ever made. It's called Unpregnant. Get it? It's like the answer to Unplanned, which was a movie about how great life is. You know, this is Unpregnant. And it is an all-out pro-abortion movie that unfortunately my producers made me watch. I had to watch it. I sat through every second of this trash. Just to give you a sense, a gist of the movie, it's basically 90 minutes of this.
I'm pregnant! Hell yeah! Yeah! I'm pregnant and I'm getting an abortion! Yes! We're gay and pregnant! We are gay and we are pregnant!
That's it. It's that for 90 minutes. It's a buddy teenage movie, a buddy road trip movie about the one girl, that blonde girl, who is a sociopathic narcissist, and then the other girl who is a lesbian with daddy issues. And they go on this road trip out of state to kill the blonde girl's child. They have to go out of state because it's not even a movie about whether or not we should have abortion. It's a movie about whether or not we should have underage abortion. And it's actually not even a movie about that. It's a movie about whether or not we should have underage abortion without parental notice. So you're saying that girls who are, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 should be able to get abortions without telling their parents. Now, just practically, how does underage abortion work? What is it used for? It's often used in sex trafficking, because then if you've got underage girls who are having sex with men and then get pregnant, you can go, kill the baby, take care of the pregnancy, and no one has to know. It is used by, truly the worst people, the most wicked, evil people on the face of the earth to do horrible things, often abusing children. That is the topic that this movie takes as this wonderful thing that they're going to support. So they go on this trip, and it's got the kind of tone of a fun little teenage movie, but the punchline is always this awful thing where the guy and the girl don't get together. They split up. They don't end up happily ever after. They go apart. You don't end up with a child and a family. You kill your child, and you completely take out the possibility of having a family. The girl finds out that she's pregnant at the first scene of the movie. And usually in this kind of thing, what would you expect? You'd expect the boyfriend who knocked her up to be really awful, and he's abusive and he's terrible. What's amazing about this movie, though, is he's not. He's a nice enough guy who tries to do the right thing. And when she tells him that she's pregnant, he doesn't yell at her or say, go get an abortion or something. He proposes marriage.
I'm pregnant. I know what I want to do and I have a plan. I could just really use your help with what's happening right now.
You marry me?
Would you marry me? That's a great thing to do. That's the right thing to do. Because what she's saying is, as always happens with feminism, they just try to flip men and women. So they try to make women out to be men and say that male values are the only things they should aspire to. And they make these men want the things that women traditionally want. So she's saying, yeah, I want to get an abortion. I want to kill this kid. And then he proposes marriage. And you know what she does? She takes his wedding ring and pawns it so that she can get money to kill his baby, his child. As if he has no say in this at all. The kid's his, right? It's his kid. No say at all. So they don't present a particularly flattering image of this gal until you realize that they're inverting everything. One of the reasons that this movie doesn't work very well is because they don't understand their subject. They don't understand any of the subjects that they're touching on. Going through all of it, one thing that strikes me is that it's just a bad movie. And listen, I've seen a ton of bad movies. I've been in a few bad movies. So I know the qualities of a bad movie. It's a very weak as just a matter of content. I had to invest my time in this horrible garbage movie. However, if you choose to invest your time in the stock market, I would highly recommend Phenom Group. How's that for a segue? That was just phenomenal. You can invest and trade like a pro with Phenom Group, and their premium membership tier gets you exclusive daily trade signals, in-depth market analysis, including stocks, currencies, futures, and options. What I would personally recommend is the Mastermind Options tier, which gets you everything plus a live daily trade room that follows published trades and exclusive option trades. Right now, you should head on over there. You should not go watch this dumb movie, but you should go head on over there if you're interested in investing. Go to phenomgroup.com and use coupon code DailyWire at checkout for 20% off the first 2 months. That is coupon code DailyWire at checkout at Phenom Group, F-I-N-O-M, for 20% off, or just click on the link in the bio. Educate yourself on it. It's a great way to get into investing, so go check that out right now. Unfortunately, I will have to continue checking out this stupid movie. The issue is they don't understand the things that they're talking about. So the heroes in the movie are the people who are killing babies professionally, like the abortionists, and the girls who are now being encouraged to go get abortions without their parents, forget consent, not even the parents' notification, and to go kill these children without the fathers of those children having anything that they can possibly say about it. I mean, those are the heroes. And then the villains are, you can expect, Christians, parents. There's one place where a kind of conservative, he's more like a kooky libertarian guy, is actually a hero. They find this guy out in the middle of nowhere, and they need him to use his limousine company to drive them the rest of the way out of state to go get this underage abortion. They try to make a conservative or a libertarian argument for abortion, and it just totally falls flat. Nothing about it rings realistic.
The law there won't let me get one without my parents knowing, so we had to go all the way to New Mexico.
Big government. Thinking they can tell people what they can and cannot do with their bodies. It makes me sick.
Oh, and there's the big surprise, right? Is this guy who they think is going to be really against it. He's for abortion because he's a true conservative. He's a coherent libertarian who believes that people should control their own bodies. Now, of course, the conservative position and the libertarian position on abortion is pro-life, because from the conservative perspective, there's nothing very conservative about killing your future, killing your children, and there's nothing particularly moral about that, or it's obvious violation of the moral order. But even for libertarians who ground a lot of their political views in the non-aggression principle, it's an obvious violation of the non-aggression principle because you're killing a living human being. Many of the most prominent libertarians around for the past however long, and all in recent memory, have been pro-life, and that's why. So they don't understand the political dynamic here. They're just kind of reciting what some stupid, freshman year leftist says. They say, "Oh, you've got to be totally consistent. You're for small government until it's about women's bodies." It's like, no, I'm also in favor of laws against murder, right? I don't think that's a government overreach. And it's for the same reason that I would oppose abortion, because you're taking the life of another human being. So they get that wrong. They totally misunderstand not just the pro-life movement, they misunderstand Christianity in general. The big scary reveal of the moment is that the girls are kidnapped by this Christian couple and taken to their home and tried to be chased down, and there's a car chase, and all to prevent the abortion. And the climax happens when the lesbian with daddy issues walks into the attic and discovers pro-life yard signs.
Hello, baby.
Lawrence, get out of here!
So they have to run, and then they get chased down in a car and everything. So a few signs early on that you can tell these filmmakers have no idea, they don't know anything about Christianity, is there's a lot of Catholic iconography around the house. So they're crucifixes rather than just, generally Protestants tend to prefer just a cross without the body of Christ on it. There are crucifixes. There's a lot of Marian iconography. One of the family's kids is named Mary. But then they kind of talk like more evangelical Protestants. They behave that way. They've got more of an evangelical aesthetic. So they're just very confused on that aspect of things. They think that Christians would kidnap people and drag them out to their desert home. For some reason, they live in the middle of nowhere in this beautiful home, and hold them against their will. Of course, that would be sinful, and no one would do that. You see this later in the movie when they go to the abortion clinic, and the pro-life people are screaming and they're angry. I've been outside of Planned Parenthoods, okay? The only screaming angry people are the abortionists in there and the leftist pro-abortion advocates. The people who, I went to a major rally outside of a Planned Parenthood. It was people praying the rosary, very quietly praying, offering literature on information about this. Just a complete misunderstanding. You can tell this is a filmmaker who has never talked to anybody at all who's pro-life. And then the third thing they misunderstand is most essential. They misunderstand abortion itself. And they go, at one point in the movie, it's just a whole commercial for abortion and how great it is, and you'll just feel wonderful at the end, and there's nothing to worry about.
We'll draw some blood, and we'll hook you up to an IV. Then you'll sit with other women who are waiting for surgery.
No, pause right there. Pause right there. You just say you'll sit with other women who are waiting for surgery. Surgery here is the euphemism for abortion. This whole movie is about creating a system whereby young teenage girls can get abortions, maybe to cover up their personal decisions that were undertaken consensually. Although I thought, by the way, we have an age of consent for a reason. In the age of Me Too, right, we're told that that's why we have statutory rape, right? As we're saying, girls under a certain age, people under a certain age, do not have the wherewithal to consent. So on the one hand, they're telling us it's all about consent. On the other hand, they're saying, yeah, these 13-year-old girls, yeah, they can totally consent. Get them abortions, which is, by the way, one of the tools most prayed for, most wished for by rapists and all sorts of other evil people is that you can have an abortion to get away with any evidence of the crime, especially when the parents don't pay attention. But here, you see this age group. You got the 17-year-old girl and you got the 75-year-old woman. That 75-year-old woman probably not going to get an abortion. It continues.
The anesthesiologist will place a mask on your face and you'll be asleep in seconds. The doctor has a wand that he'll insert inside you and remove the fetus. You'll be in and out in under 10 minutes.
Pause it there again. There's a big moment in the movie where she's talking to this abortionist, where the young protagonist is talking to the abortionist, and the abortionist says, yeah, and you can be asleep for the whole thing. You can either have local anesthetic or you can be put completely under and be asleep. And the girl goes, oh, I'd much rather be asleep. That was a little revealing, right? Because, of course you would, because you know that what's happening here is so grave, it's so morally indefensible. You just want to be knocked out for it. You just want to be totally unconscious. Because if you were conscious of what's going on, you'd know how evil it is. That's what makes us uncomfortable. That's what the bioethicist Leon Kass might call the wisdom of repugnance. Even if you can't reason through why it's so awful, you just know at a gut level, oh my gosh, what I'm doing is so wrong. So she's got to be knocked out. And then she goes to the recovery room. Oh, it's 10 minutes. It's so easy. You've got the kids gone, and then you're just in the recovery room, and it'll all be wonderful.
You'll wake up in the recovery room, safe and sound.
It seems so wonderful. Gosh, it seems so relaxing. So you're in the recovery room, and then, this is pretty invasive surgery because you've just had a human being, your child, removed from you. So you're probably there recovering for a while. It's not too nice, right? Nope, the movie then depicts the gal just skipping out of the abortion clinic to see her friend, and then they go on and go have lunch.
You're alive! Oh, they wouldn't let me see you, so I just assumed you were dead.
Oh. No, I'm fine.
How are you feeling?
Relieved. And hungry.
Food? Okay.
Yeah, ravenous, I'm sure. That line, you're alive, is pretty ghoulish in there, right? You're alive. Yes, I'm alive. My child's not alive, but I'm alive. It had to be intentional. So as you're leaving the abortion, you say, you're alive. But the reality is you don't go skipping out of your abortion. That's not how this works. Totally fine, right? Feeling bright as a daisy. That's not what happens. I know people who have had abortions. I suspect you might know people who have had abortions. You might know people who have had abortions, and you might not even know that they've had abortions. You don't walk out of that scot-free, feeling great and clean, skipping on your way to lunch. The people I know who have had abortions have deep, profound psychological trauma from it. Sometimes people have physical trauma from that. You heard the case of what was completely covered up by the mainstream media of Kermit Gosnell, the worst serial killer in American history. He was botching abortions in Philadelphia and killing women as a result. So you don't always walk away from it anyway. But even when you do, the psychological trauma doesn't go away. One thing we're told is that without legal abortion, there would be thousands of women dying from back alley abortions. That's what happened before Roe v. Wade. That's not true. When you look at how many people, it was fewer than 40 people died of illegal abortions the year before Roe v. Wade. Fewer than 40 people died from legal abortions. And actually, when you look at the number of states where it was legal and illegal, you were just as likely to die from a legal abortion as from an illegal abortion. The number were very small in any case. So you wouldn't have that sort of thing, the botched back alley, all these sorts of things. But you do have the trauma. You do have the psychological trauma. And this rosy propaganda is not depicting the reality. It's not predicting the political reality. It's not depicting the religious reality. And it's not depicting the scientific reality of abortion. You know, I keep mentioning it's about this sort of sociopathic narcissist gal and then her lesbian friend with daddy issues. And I hope you don't think that I'm using the phrase lesbian with daddy issues in any sort of pejorative way. I'm using it in a purely descriptive way. It is a major plot point of the movie that this gal is a lesbian and she hates her father. And so much of this movie comes down to, I hate my father, I hate my father, these dads are bad, which a lot of liberalism tends to come down to. There's a scene in the movie where the blue-haired gal goes up and meets her dad because her dad ran out on her, and her dad didn't want her in the first place, wanted her aborted. And he left because the mother insisted on having children. And I guess the political message there of the movie is it would be better if unwanted children were never born because they were killed before they were born. But what's amazing, they couldn't do it. They couldn't make it work from a narrative perspective. So then the protagonist, the blonde girl, jumps in and she says, how dare you not want this? This girl is the most amazing, wonderful, special, terrific girl ever. And that's the nice moment where they come back together and reconcile in their friendship. But it totally undermines the argument of the movie, which is that unwanted children should not be born. They should be killed in utero. Because the gal, the best friend who helps the protagonist have the abortion, she was an unwanted child. So if the logic of abortion is true, then that friendship shouldn't exist and the girl wouldn't be able to get the abortion anyway. It totally undermines the whole message of the movie. But this is a very poorly done movie, just as a matter of filmmaking. And it's funny, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, critics score pretty high, audience score pretty low. If you look at Unplanned, the pro-life movie, critics score very low, audience score pretty high. That's the way it goes. There's a real perversity to anyone who would greenlight this movie and put it on HBO. If for no other reason that it's just a crappy movie, but also because of its just heinous message. There's a real perversity to that. And the perversity is the elites. It's the gatekeepers. It's the people who are producing the movies, distributing them, and reviewing them. But then when you look at the audience, you say, what are people seeing? I think they're seeing the reality much, much better than the artists who are supposedly showing us this vision of the world. Well, it's a vision that's perverse and it's wrong, and I don't recommend you go see it.